The strange readings appeared on Dr. Lisa Fenton's monitor at 3:17 a.m. She rubbed her tired eyes, certain she was seeing things. But the pattern remained, a pulsing signature at the edge of Neptune's orbit that didn't match any known cosmic phenomenon. "Jerry, come look at this," she called to her assistant across the NASA control room. Jerry shuffled over, coffee in hand. "What am I looking at, Doc?" "That," Lisa pointed at the rhythmic spikes on her screen. "Those aren't random. That's a pattern. A perfect mathematical sequence that repeats every 12.7 seconds. Jerry's eyes widened. "Natural objects don't do that." "No," Lisa said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "They don't." Within hours, every major observatory on Earth confirmed the readings. By day's end, the United Earth Defense Force dispatched their most advanced ship, the UES Horizon, to investigate. Captain Daniel Reeves stood on the bridge of the Horizon, watching the stars through the massive viewport. After 20 years in space, he thought he'd seen everything. He was wrong. "Captain, we'll reach the coordinates in 5 minutes," said his navigator, Susan Blake. Reeves nodded, feeling the familiar tightness in his chest that came before any mission. "All stations, report status." His crew of 50 responded with crisp efficiency. The Horizon was humanity's finest achievement, a marvel of engineering that could reach half the speed of light. Yet Reeves couldn't shake the feeling they were utterly unprepared for what awaited them. "Contact. Visual range." Lieutenant Kevin Harlow called from the sensor station. The main screen flickered on, and the bridge fell silent. It was massive, easily twice the size of the Horizon. The alien vessel gleamed with a dark metallic surface that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. No visible windows, no recognizable propulsion system, just smooth curves that defied human engineering principles. "My God," someone whispered. "Open communications on all frequencies," Reeves ordered. Standard greeting package. For 10 long minutes, nothing happened. Then, a beam of blue light swept across the Horizon's hull. "They're scanning us," Harlow reported. The ship's speakers crackled. A voice, or something like a voice, spoke in perfect English. "Human vessel. We are the Vorsic Collective. We come in peace." Reeves exchanged glances with his communications officer. "How do they know our language?" Before anyone could answer, a request came through to establish a video link. Reeves straightened his uniform and nodded. The being that appeared on screen was tall and slender, with iridescent skin and eyes too large for its narrow face. It introduced itself as Ambassador Krell. "We have observed your world for some time," Krell said. "We wish to establish diplomatic relations with Earth." Over the next 6 hours, Reeves and his team engaged in careful conversation with the alien. They seemed peaceful, advanced, willing to share knowledge. But in the science lab, Dr. Lisa Fenton was troubled. She'd been monitoring communications beyond the official channel and detected encrypted transmissions pulsing from the Vorsic ship toward deep space. "They're reporting back to someone," she told Reeves in private. "And based on the signal strength, we're talking about a much larger force." Reeves frowned. "You think this is just a scout?" "I think we need to be careful," she replied. Her warning came too late. As Reeves returned to the bridge, the lights flickered. The ship's AI announced, "Warning. Unknown energy signature detected." The Vorsic ship's smooth surface had reconfigured, revealing weapon ports that glowed with purple energy. "Shields up. Evasive maneuvers," Reeves shouted. The first blast tore through the Horizon's shields like they weren't there. The second hit the engine room. The ship lurched violently, throwing crew members across the deck as emergency sirens wailed. "Get to the escape pods," Reeves ordered, helping an injured crewman to his feet. Only one shuttle managed to launch before the Horizon exploded in a blinding flash. Inside it, 3 survivors, Captain Reeves, Dr. Fenton, and Lieutenant Harlow, watched in horror as the Vorsic ship turned toward Earth. The invasion had begun. 6 months passed since the destruction of the Horizon. Earth had changed forever. Admiral Patricia Morrison stood in the command center of the last human space station. Outside the reinforced windows, the Vorsic blockade surrounded Earth, 30 massive ships positioned in a perfect grid pattern. Their dark hulls absorbed sunlight, creating eerie shadows across the planet below. "Status report," Morrison demanded, her gray hair pulled tight in a bun, face lined with exhaustion. "Mars colony hasn't responded in 3 weeks," reported her second-in-command. "Europa station went silent yesterday." Morrison closed her eyes briefly. 2 more human outposts gone. The 3 survivors from the horizon had warned them, but Earth hadn't prepared quickly enough. When the main Vorsic fleet arrived, humanity's weapons proved useless against their shields. Nuclear missiles, rail guns, laser arrays, all ineffective. The aliens simply absorbed or deflected everything thrown at them. In Colorado, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Alan Wright worked in a secret facility known to only 12 people in the world. Surrounded by holographic displays and prototype weapons, the scientist hadn't slept in days. His beard had grown wild, his eyes bloodshot. "Run simulation 347 again," he told the lab's eye. On the main screen, a virtual representation of his creation, Project Nemesis, engaged a Vorsic ship. The results were better than previous tests, but still not good enough. Wright slammed his fist on the desk. "Damn it. What are we missing?" A voice came through the intercom. "Dr. Wright, the refugees from Mars have arrived. They're ready for debriefing." The Mars survivors gathered in a conference room. They looked thin, haunted. One woman, a mining engineer named Kelly Martinez, described what she had seen. "They don't just kill," she explained, voice trembling. "They transform. They change the atmosphere, the soil composition. It's like they're terraforming Mars to suit themselves. Anyone who gets in the way is eliminated." "How do they fight?" Wright asked. "What are their weaknesses?" Martinez shook her head. "They're methodical. Perfect coordination. It's like they share one mind." Above Earth, Admiral Morrison's last defensive fleet engaged the Vorsic. Human ships fought bravely, but were vastly outnumbered. Morrison watched from her command ship as Earth's orbital platforms, their last line of defense, exploded one by one. 70% of orbital defenses are gone, her tactical officer reported, voice shaking. Morrison made the hardest decision of her career. "Send the order. All remaining ships. Execute Protocol Omega." Protocol Omega meant retreat. Survival. Hiding what remained of Earth's fleet in pre-designated locations across the solar system. It meant accepting that they couldn't win this fight. Not now, not with their current weapons. As Morrison gave the order, her ship took a direct hit. The bridge erupted in flames and screams. "Admiral!" Someone shouted through the smoke. "We need to evacuate." Morrison looked one last time at the tactical display, watching as the Vorsic ships began their descent toward Earth's atmosphere. She nodded grimly and followed her crew to the escape pods. On Earth, the first Vorsic landing ships touched down in major cities: New York, London, Beijing, Moscow. Their forces moved with precision, establishing control zones and processing centers for humans. In the Appalachian wilderness, former Marine Sergeant Eric Summers watched the distant glow of burning cities. Around him, 20 survivors huddled in an old hunting cabin. Soldiers, civilians, a doctor, 2 children. "What do we do now?" asked a young woman clutching the shotgun. Summers checked his rifle. "We fight. We watch. We learn their patterns. And we wait for an opening." "Wait for what?" someone asked. "The military is destroyed. The government's gone dark." Summers looked up at the night sky, where Vorsic ships glowed like new, malevolent stars. "For a miracle," he said quietly, "or for someone to build one." Deep in his mountain laboratory, Dr. Wright received an encrypted message from Admiral Morrison's escape pod. The message contained just 4 words. "Activate Project Nemesis now." Smoke filled the air over what was once New York City. Vorsic patrol ships hummed between damaged skyscrapers, while their ground forces moved through the streets with mechanical precision. Sergeant Eric Summers watched from the broken window of an abandoned office building. His resistance group had grown to 57 people in the last month. Not an army, but enough to cause trouble. "They're changing their patrol schedule again," said Becky Ross, a former police officer who tracked Vorsic movements. "Third time this week." "They learn fast," Summers replied. He lowered his binoculars and turned to his team. "But so do we." The resistance had discovered something important about the Vorsic. Despite their advanced technology, they were predictable. They followed patterns, schedules, and routines without deviation. Once you learned their system, you could find gaps to exploit. 200 miles away, in the Appalachian Mountains, another team from Summers' resistance made a discovery. They had tracked strange Vorsic activity around old mining areas. "They're drilling," said Jack Powell, a former mining engineer. "And not randomly. They're after specific minerals." Powell showed the team samples he collected near Vorsic extraction sites. Rare earth elements, the same materials used in advanced electronics and quantum computing. "They need these for their tech," Powell explained. "Their ships, their weapons, all of it depends on these elements." This was the first potential weakness they had found. If the aliens needed Earth's resources, they could be vulnerable during collection and transport. Summers organized a daring raid on a Vorsic mining operation. Against all odds, they managed to capture a live Vorsic, a worker-class alien separated from its unit. They'd brought it to their hidden base in an old bomb shelter. Dr. Lisa Fenton, who had joined Summers' group after months in hiding, examined the captive alien. Unlike the diplomat they had seen on the horizon, alarms screamed through the mountain facility as Dr. Wright rushed Lieutenant Harlow toward the central chamber of Project Nemesis. The floor shook from Vorsic weapons hitting the mountainside above them. "We have 15 minutes before they breach the outer defenses," Wright said, typing access codes into a massive steel door. It slid open with a hydraulic hiss. Inside was a large circular room dominated by a strange chair surrounded by curved screens and blinking lights. Cables ran from the chair to humming machines that lined the walls. "What exactly is Project Nemesis?" Harlow asked, staring at the setup. Wright checked monitors as technicians rushed around them. "Something that should never have been built," he said. "A weapons platform that combines AI, drone swarms, and experimental quantum technology." "Why was it shut down?" "Because it's too powerful. Too dangerous." Wright paused. "The project started as a defensive system, a way to control thousands of combat drones simultaneously. But we discovered something unexpected." Another explosion rocked the facility. Dust fell from the ceiling. The human mind, properly connected to the system, can do more than just control drones. It can expand, evolve, become something new. Wright's eyes showed both wonder and fear. "The world governments shut us down 7 years ago, but I kept working, in secret." Harlow looked at the chair. "And I'm going to connect to this thing. Your consciousness will interface with the Nemesis network. You'll control everything it controls, every drone, every system. But the neural load," Wright hesitated, "could kill me." "You said that already." Harlow removed his jacket. "Let's do this." Technicians attached sensors to Harlow's head and arms. The chair reclined automatically. "Once we start, we can't stop the process," Wright warned. "Are you sure?" On a security monitor, they watched Vorsic forces cutting through the outer door. Harlow nodded. "Do it." Wright pressed a series of buttons. The machines hummed louder. Harlow's body tensed, his back arching as the neural connection formed. In his mind, Harlow experienced something impossible to describe. His consciousness expanded beyond his body, flowing through digital pathways. He could suddenly sense thousands of dormant drones hidden in silos across the planet. Each felt like an extension of his own body. In the control room, Wright watched Harlow's vital signs with growing concern. Heart rate too high. Brain activity off the charts. His mind is connecting to the entire network. A technician reported with awe. All systems coming online. Across the world, in hidden bunkers and underwater bases, thousands of specialized combat drones activated simultaneously. They were unlike anything humanity had deployed before. Sleek, adaptable machines that could fly, swim, or burrow through Earth. Back in the mountain facility, the inner doors began to melt under Vorsic weapons. Security personnel fired desperately at the first aliens pushing through. "We're out of time," someone shouted. Wright looked at Harlow, whose eyes had opened but stared blankly ahead, seeing something beyond the room. "Lieutenant, can you hear me?" Harlow's voice came through the speaker system instead of from his mouth. "I can hear you. I can hear everything." His voice sounded strange, as if multiple people were speaking in perfect unison. "I can see them, all of them, everywhere." "The Nemesis system is fully online," a technician confirmed. The facility shook again as the Vorsic breached the final door. They poured into the main corridor, advancing toward the Nemesis chamber with weapons raised. Wright placed his hand on Harlow's shoulder. "Lieutenant, if you can hear me, we need help. Now." Harlow's vacant eyes blinked once. "Help is coming." Above the facility, the sky darkened as hundreds of combat drones suddenly appeared, converging on the Vorsic ships. Inside the mountain, smaller drones emerged from hidden compartments in the walls, engaging the alien forces in the corridors. For the first time since the invasion began, the Vorsic were caught by surprise. Humanity's war machine had arrived. The Vorsic soldiers entered the Nemesis chamber with weapons raised. They moved as one unit, perfectly coordinated. The few human security guards who remained fired back, but they were hopelessly outmatched. Then the air in the chamber changed. Small drones, no bigger than a fist, poured from hidden vents in the walls. Hundreds of them swarmed around the Vorsic soldiers, moving with impossible precision. Tiny lasers cut through alien armor. Micro-explosives detonated in perfect sequence. The Vorsic fell back, confused by the unexpected resistance. For the first time, their perfect formation broke. Dr. Wright watched in amazement. The drones moved like a single organism, or like extensions of Harlow's own body. In the neural interface chair, Harlow sat motionless except for his eyes, which darted rapidly behind closed lids. The screens around him displayed feeds from around the world as the Nemesis system fully activated. "Lieutenant, can you hear me?" Wright asked. Harlow's voice came through the facility's speakers. "Yes, and more. I can see through thousands of eyes now. The Vorsic are everywhere, but so are we." Outside the mountain facility, larger combat drones engaged the Vorsic ships. Unlike conventional weapons, these drones seemed to adapt instantly to Vorsic defenses. When one attack failed, they immediately tried new approaches. Similar scenes played out across the planet. In New York, Sergeant Summers and his resistance fighters watched in disbelief as swarms of unmarked drones descended on Vorsic positions. The aliens, caught by surprise, retreated for the first time since the invasion began. Admiral Morrison received reports from around the globe. "The Nemesis system is operational," she told her command staff. "For the first time, we're pushing them back." But the most remarkable discovery came from Dr. Lisa Fenton. Studying data from the captured Vorsic worker, she noticed something extraordinary when the Nemesis drones attacked. "The Vorsic can't predict our movements anymore," she told Summers over a secure channel. "Their systems are designed to counter logical, predictable combat patterns, but the Nemesis swarm moves like a human mind. Creative, intuitive, sometimes even random." Summers watched as drones cleared a Vorsic checkpoint that had seemed impenetrable for weeks. "You're saying their weakness is our unpredictability?" "Exactly," Fenton replied. "Their entire society is built on perfect coordination. They share a hive mind. They've never encountered truly individual thinking before." Back in the mountain facility, Harlow experienced something beyond normal human consciousness. His mind expanded through the Nemesis network, controlling thousands of drones simultaneously. He could process information from multiple battlefields at once, making split-second decisions that would be impossible for any computer. But there was a cost. His body temperature rose dangerously. Blood trickled from his nose. His brain is overheating. A technician warned. Human neural pathways weren't designed for this level of processing. Wright checked Harlow's vital signs with growing concern. "Lieutenant, we need to reduce your connection depth. You're pushing too hard." "No," Harlow's voice replied through the speakers. "I can handle it. And I found something important." On the main screen, a map appeared showing a Vorsic command ship hidden behind the moon. "That's their central coordination point," Harlow explained. "All Vorsic receive instructions from that ship." Admiral Morrison, watching via video link, leaned forward. "Can we reach it?" "The Nemesis drones can," Harlow replied. "But there's more. I can access their communications now. I'm starting to understand how they think." His body tensed suddenly, back arching in pain. "Lieutenant," Wright rushed to his side. Harlow gasped. The lights in the facility flickered. On the screens, drones worldwide faltered momentarily before resuming their attacks. "Something's fighting back," Harlow said, his voice trained. "The Vorsic, they've detected my presence in their network. They're deploying some kind of quantum disruptor." The screens flashed with error messages. The connection was weakening. Wright looked at the battle feeds with growing alarm. Without Nemesis, humanity would lose its only advantage. "They're trying to cut me off," Harlow whispered. "I can't let them." Lieutenant Harlow screamed as the Vorsic quantum disruptor tore through his neural connection. The lights in the facility flickered wildly. On screens around the world, the Nemesis drones faltered, some falling from the sky, others drifting endlessly. "We're losing him," Dr. Wright shouted, rushing to stabilize Harlow's vital signs. "The neural load is too much." In his mind, Harlow fought against a crushing darkness. The vast consciousness he had experienced was fragmenting, breaking apart like shattered glass. The Vorsic were somehow attacking the Nemesis network directly, using a technology that operated beyond normal physics. For 12 agonizing minutes, the connection failed completely. During those minutes, humanity suffered heavy losses as the Vorsic counterattacked with renewed force. In New York, Sergeant Summers and his resistance fighters were forced to retreat as the drones protecting them suddenly dropped from the sky. 3 of his people died covering their escape. "What happened?" he demanded over the radio. "The Nemesis system is down," came Admiral Morrison's grim reply from her submarine command center. "We're trying to restore it." In the mountain facility, Dr. Lisa Fenton worked frantically alongside Dr. Wright. The neural interface chair sparked and smoked as its systems overloaded. "His mind is still in there somewhere," Wright said, checking Harlow's brain activity. "But the Vorsic disruptor is blocking the connection." Fenton studied data from the captured Vorsic worker. Something about the alien's neural patterns gave her an idea. "The Vorsic operate on a hive mind principle," she explained. "They've never encountered truly individual consciousness before. That's why the Nemesis system worked initially. It was too unpredictable for them. But now they're blocking it," Wright said. "Yes, but they're blocking what they think is a single consciousness," Fenton replied. "What if we could make them think they're facing multiple minds?" She quickly explained her theory. If they could amplify Harlow's neural signature and split it into multiple patterns, it might create the impression of several independent human minds operating simultaneously. This neural noise could confuse the Vorsic targeting systems. Wright modified the Nemesis interface while technicians worked to stabilize Harlow, whose body temperature had reached dangerous levels. Ice packs were placed around his head and chest. "Ready to try?" Wright asked when the modifications were complete. Fenton nodded. "Do it." They reactivated the neural interface. This time, instead of channeling Harlow's consciousness directly to the drones, the system created dozens of slightly altered copies of his neural pattern, each one different enough to appear as a separate mind. Harlow gasped as the connection reformed. Inside his mind, He experienced a strange doubling effect, as if he were thinking with multiple brains at once. It was disorienting but somehow manageable. Broadcasting neural patterns across all frequencies, a technician reported. On screens around the room, they watched as the Vorsic ships suddenly began to move erratically. The alien forces, so perfectly coordinated before, fell into disarray. "It's working," Wright said in amazement. "They can't target the neural signals because they can't tell which one is real." Harlow's voice came weakly through the speakers. "I'm back in their systems. I can see their communication network." The Nemesis drones reactivated worldwide, once again fighting with human unpredictability. But now they had an additional advantage. The Vorsic couldn't coordinate their defense effectively. In cities across the planet, resistance fighters emerged from hiding to find the Vorsic in confusion. Alien soldiers moved without purpose, sometimes even firing on each other. Admiral Morrison received reports of Vorsic ships retreating from Earth's atmosphere. "They're falling back," she told her command staff. "For the first time, they're actually retreating." But the victory was far from complete. Through the Nemesis system, Harlow could sense the Vorsic regrouping. Their command ship behind the moon was sending new instructions, adapting to humanity's countermeasures. "They're learning," he warned. "We've confused them, but they're already developing a new coordination system." Dr. Wright looked at Harlow's weakening vital signs. "How long can you maintain the connection?" "Long enough," Harlow replied. "But we need to strike at their center, at the heart of their hive." Admiral Morrison stood in a small briefing room aboard the submarine. Around the table were the key leaders of humanity's resistance: Dr. Wright, Dr. Fenton, Surgeon Summers, and several military officers. On a screen at the head of the table, Lieutenant Harlow's face appeared, pale but determined. "The Vorsic command ship is our target," Morrison said, pointing to holographic images of a massive vessel hiding behind the moon. According to Lieutenant Harlow's intelligence, this ship houses what they call the Nexus, the central intelligence that coordinates all Vorsic forces. Summers studied the image. "How do we reach it? We don't have ships that can get to the moon anymore." "We don't," Morrison agreed. "But the Nemesis drones do." Dr. Wright explained the plan. A special group of advanced Nemesis drones would escort a small human strike team to the Vorsic command ship. Using Harlow's access to their systems, they would board the vessel, locate the Nexus, and shut it down. "This is a suicide mission," one of the officers said. "Maybe," Morrison replied. "But it's our only chance to end this war." Volunteers were selected for the mission. Admiral Morrison would lead the strike team herself, along with Surgeon Summers, Dr. Fenton, and 5 elite soldiers. The team prepared in a hidden launch facility in the Pacific Ocean. They wore specially designed spacesuits with limited weapons and equipment. Their main advantage would be surprise and Lieutenant Harlow's connection to the Nemesis system. "The Vorsic still don't fully understand how our neural interface works," Harlow explained through a communication link. "I can mask your approach and guide you through their ship." The launch occurred at midnight. A swarm of Nemesis drones surrounded the small human shuttle, hiding it from Vorsic sensors. The journey to the moon took just under 4 hours, using captured Vorsic propulsion technology. As they approached the massive command ship, the team saw its true scale for the first time. It was the size of a small city, with a smooth, dark surface that seemed to absorb light. "I've identified an access point," Harlow's voice said in their helmets. "Maintenance bay on the lower level." Their attention is focused on Earth right now. The shuttle slipped inside the Vorsic ship without detection. The team moved through dark corridors guided by Harlow's instructions. Occasionally, they passed Vorsic workers who, confused by the neural noise Harlow was broadcasting, simply ignored the human intruders. "We're mapping as we go," Dr. Fenton whispered, scanning the alien technology around them. "This ship is incredible. Their material science is centuries beyond ours." After navigating through a maze of passages, they reached the central chamber. Inside was a pulsing blue sphere surrounded by what looked like liquid metal. "The Nexus. I'm detecting unusual activity, Harlow warned. The Nexus knows you're there. The liquid metal began to move, forming into a humanoid shape. It spoke in perfect English. Humans, I have been waiting for you. Morrison raised her weapon, but the figure made no aggressive move. I am the Nexus central control of the Vorsic Collective. You have proven unexpected. You invaded our world, Morrison said, killed millions of our people. The Nexus seemed to consider this. You are the 17th species we have encountered, the only one to offer meaningful resistance. Your minds are different. Different how? Dr. Fenton asked. Unpredictable. Individual. All other species we found shared collective thought patterns, as we do. Your fragmented consciousness should have made you weaker. Instead, it has made you stronger. Summers stepped forward. Why are you telling us this? We came to destroy you. I understand your intent, the Nexus replied, but you should know the consequences. I am the central controller of all Vorsic. If I am destroyed, they will all die instantly. Billions of lives across 17 systems. Morrison faced a moral dilemma she never expected. Commit genocide or risk humanity's extinction. There must be another way, she said. There is not, the Nexus replied. Only one species can survive. The choice is yours. Summers checked the explosives they had brought. Admiral, what are your orders? Before Morrison could answer, the chamber doors slammed shut. I cannot allow you to make that choice, the Nexus said, its voice now cold. The collective must survive. The chamber filled with a strange gas as the Nexus began to shift form again. Admiral Morrison and her team quickly put on their emergency breathing masks. Lieutenant Harlow, we're trapped, Morrison called through her comlink. The Nexus has sealed us in. Thousands of miles away, Harlow sat in the neural interface chair, his consciousness still connected to the Nemesis system. Through the drones positioned throughout the Vorsic ship, he could see what was happening. I'm trying to override their security systems, he replied, his voice strained. But the Nexus is blocking me. The liquid metal form of the Nexus expanded, filling more of the chamber. Your species cannot be allowed to threaten the collective. You are too unpredictable, too individual. This makes you dangerous. Dr. Fenton stepped forward despite Morrison's warning gesture. That's what you fear, isn't it? Our individuality. You've never encountered anything like it before. It is chaos, the Nexus replied. Inefficient, wasteful. It's what makes us human, Fenton said. And it's why we'll never surrender. Morrison saw an opportunity in this exchange. We're offering you a third option. Withdraw your forces from Earth and never return. We'll let you live. The Nexus seemed to pause, considering. Impossible. Resources have been committed. The collective has decided. You are the collective, Morrison pressed. You can decide differently. No. The Nexus began to pulse with energy. This discussion is over. Sergeant Summers noticed metal restraints emerging from the walls. Look out. The team scattered as the restraints shot toward them. 2 soldiers were caught immediately, pulled against the wall. I can't hold off the ship's security much longer, Harlow warned through the comm. You need to get out now. Summers reached for the explosives they had brought. We have no choice, Admiral. We have to take it out. Morrison hesitated. Destroying the Nexus meant killing billions of Vorsic across multiple star systems. Could she justify that, even to save humanity? Before she could decide, the ship shuddered violently. A new voice came through their comms. Strike team, this is Dr. Wright. The Vorsic fleet has begun a final assault on Earth. They're targeting our remaining population centers with some kind of planet-killer weapon. We have minutes at most. The choice became clear. Morrison nodded to Summers. Set the charges. As Summers moved to place the explosives, the Nexus attacked again. Metal tendrils wrapped around Morrison's legs, pulling her down. More security drones poured into the chamber. Cover him. Morrison ordered, firing at the drones. Dr. Fenton and the remaining soldiers created a protective circle around Summers as he worked. One by one, they fell to the Vorsic defenses. Charges set. Summers called. 2-minute timer. Everyone out now. But the doors remained sealed. They were trapped with the explosives. Summers looked at the team, then at the small service tunnel he had noticed earlier. It was barely big enough for one person. That tunnel might lead to an escape pod, he said to Morrison. Get the survivors out. I'll hold them off. Sergeant, no time to argue. Admiral, Earth needs you. Summers pushed her toward the tunnel entrance. Go. Morrison wanted to protest, but knew he was right. She helped Dr. Fenton and the one remaining soldier into the tunnel. Summers turned to face the advancing security drones, firing steadily as the timer counted down. The small group made it to an escape pod just as the charges detonated. The explosion rocked the entire command ship, sending shockwaves through its structure. Back on Earth, Harlow screamed as his neural connection to the Nexus was suddenly severed. The strain nearly killed him, but something unexpected happened. Instead of simply disconnecting, he somehow managed to isolate and contain the Nexus consciousness in the last microsecond before its destruction. The Vorsic fleet, suddenly leaderless but still alive, fell into confusion. Their weapons powered down, their coordinated attack dissolving into chaos. 1 month later, Earth was beginning to rebuild. Scattered Vorsic ships were being captured or destroyed. Most had simply shut down without the Nexus to guide them. In the mountain facility, Dr. Wright and Dr. Fenton examined Lieutenant Harlow. He had changed fundamentally. His mind now existed partially within the Nemesis system, neither fully human nor machine. I can still sense them, Harlow said, his voice coming simultaneously from his mouth and the facility speakers. New signals from deep space. Some are threats. Others, potential allies. Admiral Morrison nodded. Then we'll be ready for both. In orbit, the first ships of Earth's new fleet took shape, built with adapted Vorsic technology. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. Humanity's war machine was just getting started.